Blitz here on at San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM. I'm Jason Minnix out at Dallas Cowboys training camp in Oxnard with the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, joining us here. And Jerry, first off, thank you for setting all this back up. You know, we missed coming out to Oxnard last year with everything going on. Why was it important for you to bring training camp back to Oxnard as opposed to staying at home?
Well, let me just say, first of all, how great it is to be speaking to our fans there in San Antonio. You know how much it means and can mean in the future for the Cowboys to actually have a presence in San Antonio and be down there for some of our training camps. But it was so important, and I mean this, because I wanted these guys that I'm visiting and eyeballing this morning, I wanted them to be here in Oxnard. I wanted to be here, the team wanted to be here, but I wanted you here through them. And so it was real important. We did miss that. The NFL missed that. Training camp, the experiences of the team evolving and getting ready to play is important to have the kind of interest that we want to have. And it showed up last year in terms of our regular season. Mm-hmm. So I was actually emotional at our press conference when we started, because it means so much, and a year of absence shows us just how important it is. So it's great to be with you guys. Well,
and Mr. Jones, I mean, you just took my next question. At that opening press conference, you were more emotional than we have seen you in the past. Is that just, you know, the idea of what we've all learned in the last year about the things that we generally take for granted? Yeah,
and I also will tell you, I was just appreciative that we had overcome, if you will, and we were here. And we're in California. Now, we've got a long history in California, just as we've got a great history there in San Antonio. But, you know, it's there's fires out here. There's water concerns out here. And obviously, COVID is an issue everywhere. It's not like it was easy to have the Cowboys leave our headquarters and go someplace to have our training camp. Only 4 other teams in the NFL were able to convince the NFL that it had it all covered and they could handle it safely and go someplace else for their training camp. And we were one of them. And we know that this is obviously a great place to get our team ready. But more importantly than anything, I wanted it as a symbol, a statement that, man, the Cowboys, we not only are going to have our games as usual, but we're going to be a team that's, in spite of what we've all been through, we're going to have the kind of get this team ready to play that we all wanted to. We missed it last year, and what you saw up there, which was emotion, was not only thankful to get to be here, but an appreciation of what it might mean for our team this year. So everything about this thing, I'm just smiling, walking around here. I know I look like I'm not right, but I am right.
Who said that? You are 100% right.
But the point is that this will help us be a better team. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And in the eyes of our fans and the eyes of the nation, if somebody's doing it and business as usual, I want it to be the Dallas Cowboys. The best thing I can say to make an example of that is that last year we averaged almost 30,000 fans a ball game for our ball games. That almost was 23% of all of the attendance of the NFL last year. And that was those Dallas Cowboys. But you know, we didn't have one confirmed direct case of COVID that came from coming to those games during that particular time. And that was good for everybody. That was good for the NFL. But, boy, it really was good for me to know that it was the Cowboys that had that just had that body language about where we are. And so for that, I'm glad to be sitting here in San Antonio.
Cowboys owner Jerry Jones with us here on the Blitz. And for the record, as much as I loved training camp at the Alamo Dome, this is far better. I mean, this is far better. Keep coming out to Oxnard. I know the San Antonio Chamber might not like that, but I get coming out here.
Well, I'll tell you this. You're from a great part of the world. And, we have the same percentage of Cowboy fans in San Antonio that we have in Plano, Texas, which is huge. And that doesn't go lost. I'm so proud of the kind of support we have from our fans.
It's interesting. The last time you were actually on this show was several years ago out here in Oxnard, when Dat Wynn was my co-host. And at the time you said that there were more Cowboy fans per capita in San Antonio than in the Metroplex. But, small percentage, but it is definitely a Cowboys town.
There's no doubt, and that's still correct. But just the makeup, and it's manifest in so many ways. And the culture that we have and can claim with that kind of support. One of the reasons we all are so proud of our Hispanic culture and Hispanic interest in what the Cowboys are all about. The Cowboys had been going for almost 20 years. They had been sending 10,000 Cowboy weeklies in Spanish to Monterrey, Mexico. That was 15, 20 years before I got there. And then we have always had a separate Hispanic broadcast team doing our ball games, and that was going on 15, 20 years before I got to be with the Cowboys. And there's no question that when somebody in sport think of our Hispanic following, they think of Vaqueros de Dallas.
Absolutely.
And San Antonio is such a beautiful example of the nation. A great city, picturesque city. I think you put San Antonio, San Francisco, and then I don't know who else to put in it as far as some of the beautiful cultural cities of the United States. And so, I love everything about San Antonio when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys.
Jerry Jones with us here on the Blitz on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM. Year 2 with Mike McCarthy. First year that we've been able to experience training camp, and last year was so weird, I don't know if it counts. But, having covered this team for years and years and years, almost 2 decades, the openness in which you invite the media to be a part of everything that's going on, open practices, player interviews. You understand and value what the media offers. Being out here for a couple days, Mike McCarthy seems a little bit more secretive than previous head coaches, even having Hard Knocks on. How has the balance been for you of saying, Coach, this is the Cowboy way. You do what you need to do, but this is the Cowboy way. We're very open here.
Well, I can attest that he sees it. For instance, he thought early, man, do you think the effort to go to California, is it worth that to be out there and be, I hear about the climate, I hear of this, but is it worth it as opposed, let's say, staying right there in Dallas like some 27 other teams are doing, staying at their home? It didn't take him 2 days. He was out here, and he just fell in love with what he can do and we can do with the team and the climate and, if you will, just the aura and the atmosphere. We have a complex that if you didn't know better, you'd think it were built for the challenges of COVID. This entire complex, and of course nobody else is involved but our organization and you here at the complex. So yes, the thing I will assure you about Mike is nobody has the capability to get it if he doesn't have it any better than Mike can. And what I've watched just this first year with him, now with the first year completed, is I've watched somebody that has his principles, of course, but is willing to look for a better idea. And you've seen him have to adjust as well. When I first got in the NFL, Jimmy Johnson was our coach. He's going in the Hall of Fame. We won 1 football game. Now, people were wondering if we had maybe miscued in some way there with Jimmy Johnson. And certainly know where they had miscued in getting the owner they got. But bottom line is, obviously, there was some on-the-job, quick reacting, learning about what the NFL can be, was, and evolve from there. Well, hello, Mike McCarthy. He can get it. He adapts. I've seen him adapt in game situations, although he was criticized for lack of it, but I've seen him make those adaptations. And so I'm very pleased. Mike, no one more disappointed with our first year than Mike. I'll say it again, I've been in first years before with coaches. My best example is winning one football game with Jimmy Johnson, and before he left we won 2 Super Bowls and one more right behind it. So you have to watch out throwing the cold water on them after 1 year.
Well, and we're an hour and a half or so away from the side of this year's Super Bowl, and I look at your offense and say this team, and I think we always have to caveat with healthy, is going to be a high-scoring, prolific offense. Last year's defense, historically bad. Focus in the draft, a lot of focus in the offseason on improving the defense. Which position group on the defensive side are you most concerned about?
I think I would have to say our secondary, although, and I say that because of Randy Gregory's prominence. You see it initially here at camp, but we've seen it. He could be a very significant dominating force for us and influence what's going on with when you've got somebody that does that, and then you put DeMarcus Lawrence out there, and then you start adding the complementing each other with the other, what a great player does. So Randy Gregory's going to make a big difference. Our first round pick, Parsons, that's a lot now to put on a rookie's shoulders to say that he can help your team that much, but he's extraordinary. And because of the position his size, if you will, his physical characteristics, and his unique explosion, he's going to be able to fit in many places that frustrate the quarterback or frustrate the offense. And so those two right there that we didn't see last year and didn't see them in Randy's case used like that, those are going to make a difference. The secondary that I mentioned was my biggest concern, is where we've built the best competition. And that's where we got a lot of talent back there. We've got a lot of size, got a lot of length for secondaries. All of that has a chance to really develop into what we want. One thing to note is our depth at linebacker, where we've really loaded up in linebackers that can run and basically cover and cover receivers. Those guys are going to do a lot to help our secondary too.
Well, they will, and I also understand certain players been signed, maybe a safety that used to play with the Colts with an Achilles injury.
Yes, sir. Now, technically, I'm not sure if we've signed.
Okay.
But we've committed and signed, and we're going to sign him. And I wouldn't doubt but what we've signed him by you and our conversation here.
Good deal. So you're bringing in that. I know some other secondary guys working in. As a GM making a trade, training camp starts and you see players that are coming in for visits. You see other stories about X is available or maybe not happy, wants to get traded. What goes into making a trade at this point of the season, at the beginning of training camp?
I don't want to be trite, but you have to have a meeting of the minds, and they've got to be needing or have the team you're trading with. The player, well, let me back up and say, relative to when I first came into the NFL, there's more of the mentality of not only the clubs but the players to be involved in a trade. Mm-hmm. There's just a bigger trading mentality. When we first got here, trading was, as much as we were trading, was more novel than it is today. Although there had been some whopper trades in years past, still today the trading action is more and more and more. Free agency is a bigger thing. Players don't have the tendency to be with a team as an overall percentage as much as they used to in the past. And so you've got a better chance for a trade, and you're always chumming, as I call it. Everybody's always talking. Everybody's saying, well, how are you over here? Would you be interested in this? And that's how you initiate them. But at the end of the day, you've got to have two people willing to really get to the middle. And that's hard to do. That's like buying a house or something else. You got to have both
somebody
sides.
I know says being a GM is easy.
Well, one thing that the industry that I came from, the life I lived before the Cowboys, that's how I did it, was trading. That was what it was all about every day, and a lot of ways every day. And you would be talking to somebody with your left hand on the phone about the prospects of doing a deal and what was good about it, and your voice would be ringing positive. Then you'd get a call with the other hand, and you'd put on hold and say, you don't mean it, and you've been told you've had a bad dry hole. In other words, that's not good. Well, your voice has got to still have that tone for the positive. Go back over to this call and sell the next deal. NFL's a lot like that.
Master salesman. Jerry Jones, owner
Thank
of
you,
the
Mike.
Dallas Cowboys. I know how busy you are. We really appreciate the time this afternoon, and, again, being back here in Oxnard at Cowboys training camp.
Well, it's great to have you guys with us always.